Good evening, parents and carers, and any other community members that are joining us this evening. Welcome to our Focus Forest webinar on why choosing apprenticeships when planning next steps. And once again, we're not going to experience any technical difficulties. We're hoping we won't, but if we do, then please do bear with us. We are very fortunate enough to have such a range of staff at Forest, and I've said this in previous webinars. And we are really lucky to have Mrs. Charlton, who's our Director of Futures. And what I think that is really special about Forest, for especially me, for someone that's not a specialist in that area, is that Mrs. Charlton really ensures that the strategy of Futures at Forest is spiraled, and it goes from our youngest pupils to our oldest pupils. So I think what's really important is that if there are community members watching this after this webinar, it's not just about sixth form. It's really about informing ourselves as community members about the options out there, and the world is changing. But enough from the little that I know about Futures, and over to Mrs. Charlton, our Director of Futures.
Thank you, Ms. Milton. Good evening, parents and carers, and welcome to this webinar on apprenticeships and exploring why young people would choose an apprenticeship over an alternative pathway. This evening, we will look at what apprenticeships are. So we will start by looking at a definition of apprenticeships. We will have a very brief look back in time at the history of apprenticeships. We will not do that in any great depth, but we do need to do that in order to look at how we've arrived at the position we're in today in regards to apprenticeships. I'm going to refer to it as the golden thread of why a young person would choose an apprenticeship over alternative pathways we will focus on that in a lot more detail after looking at the position today, but that golden thread will run throughout the presentation from the start to the very end. We will then, towards the end of the presentation, look at the application process for apprenticeships. I wanted to start by making it clear to community members, Forest parents and carers, Forest students, that there is bespoke support and guidance available for Forest pupils regardless of planned or unplanned next steps. For students who are considering an apprenticeship, whether it's lower down the school or in the sixth form, we do put in place a bespoke wraparound kind of package of support depending on the apprenticeship, the pathway and the level. I will go on to explain more about that during the presentation. So to start with, I think it's important that we look at what apprenticeships are. And according to the apprenticeships.gov website, an apprenticeship is a paid job where the employee learns and gains valuable experiences. So the key thing there is that the young person has chosen to become an employee. Alongside being an employee, they will do on-the-job training. And apprentices generally spend about 20% of their working hours completing classroom-based learning, which is largely done online, may not always be done online, can be done in person, and that will be done with a college, a university, or a training provider, depending on the level of apprenticeship. And I'll go on to say a bit more about level shortly. An apprenticeship includes paid employment. As I've said, the young person has chosen to become an employee. They do have holiday leave. They will have an opportunity to get hands-on experience in the sector or the industry that they are interested in. They will spend at least 20% of the job training in a classroom-based environment. They will be learning 20% of the time. And at the end, they will do a formal assessment, which will lead to a nationally recognised qualification, depending on the level they've chosen to do. Apprenticeship levels. Apprenticeship levels start from level 1 and go all the way up to a level 7. So a level 2 apprenticeship is equivalent to a young person who has a range of GCSEs at pass level. So that's above a 4. A level 3 apprenticeship is equivalent to passes at A level. So your A to E, it's equivalent to passes at A level, and it can be referred to as an advanced apprenticeship. Levels 4 to 7 are referred to as higher apprenticeships. A level 4 apprenticeship is generally the same as one's first year at university for those who choose to follow the university pathway. A level 6 apprenticeship is equivalent to a degree level. So if a young person chooses to do a level 6 based apprenticeship, that is equivalent to a degree once they complete that apprenticeship. A level 7 is equivalent to a master's qualification. These apprenticeships can take anything, the level 4 and above can take anything from 4 years to 6 years. Those levels can be found on the UCAS website. The UCAS website, UCAS refers to the University and Colleges Admission Service, which is a very, very helpful website. A brief historical background about apprenticeships, and this is by no means a history lesson, but apprenticeships do date back to the 1500s, and they were quite popular in the 1500s. And then as time passed, the popularity declined, and then after the First World War and Second World War, the popularity then increased as it was largely males at the time, largely males who would go off and do a trade. From the 1960s to the early 2000s, the apprenticeships, the popularity for apprenticeships significantly dipped, and it was felt that they're not meeting the needs of industry. It was in the late 2000s that apprenticeships really began to grow momentum, and the first event to celebrate this was in 2007. I should say the first national event to celebrate this was the first National Apprenticeship Week, which was celebrated in 2007. In 2009, the National Apprenticeship Service was launched. And in 2015, the Conservative government launched degree apprenticeships. So this is still something that is relatively new. At the time, Prime Minister David Cameron said, equipping people with the skills they need to get on in life and backing businesses to create jobs are key parts of our long-term economic plan. Reference to skills there, which I find very interesting. Degree apprenticeships will give people a great head start, combining a full degree with the real practical skills gained in work and the financial security of a regular pay packet. Skills are mentioned again there, and that sentence there should really give us an understanding as to why someone may want to choose an apprenticeship. It gives people a head start because they're getting a qualification, a degree level qualification in this instance, but they're also getting the skills that are required to do that particular job within that particular industry while they're paid a salary. They will bring the world of business and the world of education closer together and let us build the high-level technical skills needed for the jobs of the future. So again, there's a reference to skills there. I want to see many more businesses and universities begin to offer them. So this was said by the Conservative government back in 2015 when degree apprenticeships were first launched. What is the position today? Now, these are the most recent headline facts and figures that have been sourced from the Apprenticeship Gov website. And I've highlighted 2 bullet points there. Higher apprenticeships, which are level 4 to level 7, continue to grow in the 2023-2024 year. Higher apprenticeship starts increased by 7.3% in that year. And those who started a level 6 or a level 7, so the level 6 being a degree apprenticeship and the level 7 being a master's, also increased by 6.6%. So more recently, there's been increase in those starting apprenticeships in the higher levels. We saw that David Cameron made reference to skills on at least 3 occasions when degree apprenticeships were launched back in 2015. This is an extract from the Future of Jobs Report 2023. This report was published May 2023 after an extensive study was done by the World Economic Forum, writing to 803 businesses, companies, global businesses and companies to find out what skills are relevant in the workforce today in 2023 and what will continue to be relevant in the next 5 years up until 2027. What human skills are relevant? And this was in a response to everything happening in the wider society in regards to certain jobs being more automated. And what this report found was cognitive skills are reported to be growing in importance most quickly, reflecting the increasing importance of complex problem solving in the workplace. I have been having one-to-one personal guidance meetings with Year 11 pupils, and this data features in most of our one-to-one meetings as we refer to creative thinking, which is the number 1 in-demand skill identified by employers. And number 2, analytical skills. That is a skill that's identified by most young people. And resilience is also there in number 5. So these key human skills are important. For those young people who choose to follow an apprenticeship pathway, they will be developing these key human skills that are relevant in the world of work and are favoured by employers as being skills that they want in their workforce. Young people who choose to follow the apprenticeship pathways will be developing these day in, day out while they're working on the job. So which industries offer apprenticeships? Apprenticeships are offered across the majority, if not all, industries. So they are offered in agriculture, animal care, business and administration, the care services, catering and hospitality, construction, creative and design, digital, education, engineering, working in the environment. They're offered in finance and accounting, and that seems to be very popular with forest students, that particular pathway, hair and beauty, health and science, law, protective services such as policing, sales and marketing, and transport. So apprenticeships, from what was quite a narrow offer in the 20th century, where they dipped in terms of how popular they were, are now offered across the majority of industries. So why choose an apprenticeship? This is taken from the UCAS website, which nicely kind of sums up why a young person would choose the university pathway over an apprenticeship pathway, or an apprenticeship pathway over the university pathway. So university is really for someone who has a love of a particular subject and wants to explore that subject more deeply. They want to learn from the experts in that field. So they want to learn from professors about that particular subject. They want to go to lectures. This type of person enjoys learning and would happily sit in a lecture to learn more about a topic they're interested in. They will bounce ideas with their classmates, and they enjoy writing essays and conducting experiments depending on what they're learning about. Someone who chooses to pursue an apprenticeship pathway will be someone who enjoys more learning through being hands-on. They want to apply what they've learned practically to roles they may perform in the near future. They focus their learning on the right areas, such as accounting. They learn from professors during their off-the-job training. So they still learn from experts during that 20% of the time when they're off-the-job training. And while they're on the job, they learn from experts in industry. They will bounce ideas off with their co-workers, and they will be supported by a mentor, a manager, and they will have a dedicated learning plan. Speaking to employers on a regular basis, I am very impressed by the level of support and the wraparound care for a young person's well-being that a young person is given when they join a particular company or a business when they start an apprenticeship. I speak to a range of employers 3-4 times a week, sometimes most days, and I will speak to employers across a range of industries: finance, tech, engineering, law, and there is a wraparound level of care around every young apprentice, from someone who's possibly one step ahead of them, to having a mentor, to having a team lead, to someone more senior. What is the application process for apprenticeships? It's very important that young people know what the application process is if they're thinking about pursuing this particular pathway in the future. Well, applying for an apprenticeship is like applying for a job, and the application window is set by the employer. For those who decide to apply to university via the traditional route, and they apply via UCAS, there are set timelines. The structure is quite rigid in terms of the application process. However, for those applying for an apprenticeship, it's like applying for any job, and the application window will be set by the employer. So the application window can open in September, and I'm aware for certain degree apprenticeships, the application window has opened, and in the last 4 weeks, I have supported and worked very closely with some Year 13 students who are already and are at the start of this journey and have started applying for apprenticeships, whereas for other students, we know the application window is opening later in the year. You apply directly to the employer through their particular website. A young person can make multiple applications for apprenticeships at the same time, and a young person in sixth form can apply to university while also applying for an apprenticeship. And actually, we do recommend that at Forest. We recommend that for a whole host of reasons. And the main one would be that things can change over the next year. If a young person only applies for apprenticeships and 6 months later decides to apply for university, they still have options available to them, but the process is now very different to the process we're following with the majority of students in the sixth form currently who have deadlines coming up for UCAS. So in terms of looking at the application process further, once a young person has made an application, they may be invited to participate in some sort of online assessment. They can be numeracy assessments, literacy assessments. It can involve some sort of psychometric testing. And according to Warwick University, over 80% of employers are starting to use psychometric testing as part of their application process. After doing some sort of assessment, the young person will be invited to an interview. I should say could be invited to an interview, because this is a general rule and it's up to the employer what their application process looks like. But they could be invited to an online interview where the interview may not actually be with a person. It could be an online recording where they press start, they talk to the camera, and questions come up on the screen in front of them. If they are successful in getting on to the next stage, then they may be invited to what we refer to as an assessment centre. An assessment centre can be made up of many different stages. There can be the in-person interview, which can take place with a panel from the company, which could include someone quite senior. I know for law, for example, the in-person interview has included a partner, and possibly someone who looks after the apprentices. As part of the assessment centre, the young person may be asked to participate in some sort of presentation to a panel. They could also be asked to engage in some sort of group task where they're working with other people who, like them, are also applying for a particular position at the firm. There may only be one position. There could be more than one. And in this group situation, they are participating in some sort of set task. It's normally, it's normally a task that involves the young person using their skill set while someone is sitting in the room, someone from the company sitting in the room, observing them and taking note of how they perform against set criteria. If they're successful in passing, achieving well in that particular stage, then an offer may be made. Young people often ask me, and it tends to be in year 11 or 12, where do I start if considering to apply for an apprenticeship? The place to start is normally to decide on an industry, and this seems to be the easy bit, as young people generally know that they're interested in law or software engineering or cybersecurity or accounting. From there, they should research that industry in detail, find out as much as possible about that particular industry and the different apprenticeship pathways within that industry. They should find employers who offer apprenticeships in that industry and really begin to do research on those employer websites. From there, they really need to be organised. So in terms of the research, where to start? Unifrog, and I will go on to show how a young person can start using Unifrog for research. Unifrog is an online platform that Forest School uses to support all young people with next steps planning. UCAS is another excellent place to start, and from September, or since September 2024, a young person can explore next steps, which sits side by side in UCAS, which I'm very, very happy about. It makes things a lot easier for young people, or they can explore directly on employer websites. So exploring Unifrog. Unifrog has a range of next steps options for young people. I've highlighted the tile in the middle there, which is the apprenticeship tile in pink. So if a young person is thinking about an apprenticeship, the first thing to do is for them to sign into Unifrog and click the apprenticeship tile. They will be asked to select a range of standards, areas that they're interested in: agriculture, animal care, accounting. They can then refine their search further they can look at vacancies, they can look at salary, they can even put in the location, thinking about where they live and how far they're willing to travel. From there, they'll get a list of apprenticeships that are currently open. The application window is open. They'll know which levels are that the application window is open for, So there it tells you that there are application windows open in the intermediate level, in the advanced level, and in the degree level. And from there, it can take the young person directly to the employer's website. So they can find out further information about the apprenticeship. They can find out when the application window opens, when the application window closes, what the salary is, how many vacancies are available, in addition to entry requirements and key skills the employer's asking for. Once they've finished, they can save their list, and that list can be emailed directly to them. They can upload it into their locker on Unifrog, which is another excellent tool to use via the Unifrog website. UCAS is another excellent resource our young people have for exploring next steps. And as I said, because of the increase in and demand in apprenticeships since about 2015, since the release of degree apprenticeships, UCAS from September 2024 allows young people to look at their next steps options side by side. And this is a screenshot from the UCAS website to show the different levels, and a young person can explore each level in detail by clicking on the level they're interested in. They can explore by industry on the UCAS website. They can hover over the relevant tile, law for example, and they can hear from people who've explored the apprenticeship pathway in that particular industry. And here is a real life case study. This young person turned down Oxford to do an apprenticeship in law. So she decided to become a trainee solicitor via the apprenticeship route and not go to university. UCAS also, similar to Unifrog, matches young people and their interests in particular jobs, roles, or industries with directly with employers, which is something our students can subscribe to. So they get alerts directly in their inbox. Employer websites are very, very, very useful. Employer websites and the early careers section I have seen in recent years has developed significantly to make things as easy as possible for young people who are considering apprenticeships. There are on some websites, employer websites, there are practice questions. It explains the application process. You can register interest for apprenticeships within a particular industry with a particular employer if the application window is not yet open. I have noticed that some employers have now aligned their apprenticeship window with National Apprenticeship Week, which is at the start of February. So I've spoken to Google recently and some law firms who have aligned their apprenticeships to match up with National Apprenticeship Week in February. That's when they open the window and release the apprenticeships. However, others, and I'm aware of a number of finance apprenticeships that are currently open, have opened them at start of September, mid-September, end of September, as they're aware that Year 13 students will be exploring next steps and looking to apply from now. Registering interest is definitely worthwhile if a young person has explored a particular apprenticeship with an employer and is interested in that apprenticeship, but can't yet see that the application window is open. Being organised is very, very, very important when our students are considering pursuing an apprenticeship. In Year 13, our young people will be possibly applying to university, and the majority, if not all, will be applying to university. Our young people will be a student in Year 13. They'll be going to lessons daily. They will have homework to do. They will have coursework possibly to do. They will be reviewing work from Year 12. That they'll have a lot to do. So if in addition to all of that, they're also considering applying for an apprenticeship, being organised is very, very, very important. I met with all Year 13 students who have explored an interest in applying for an apprenticeship. I met with them in the first week back in September, and I shared a kind of tracker that they can use to ensure they are organised. And this tracker was created by a student I taught many years ago, and it's something the young person can use but doesn't have to use. And I encourage young people to use something similar to make it their own. So they should try to be organised, where as soon as an application window opens, they know the date that it opens, so that they can hopefully get in an early application, because that application window can close at any time. If on a website it states that the application window closes 3 months after it opens, if that particular apprenticeship is very, very, very popular, that application window can close earlier. And we did experience that last year, where 1 or 2 students felt that they wanted to apply later because they were juggling the demands of being a Year 13 student or other priorities they had, and then the apprenticeship window had closed early. So being very organised, doing your research, being organised is key when applying for apprenticeships, especially as our students will be applying for numerous apprenticeships at the same time. At Forest, we give information and guidance about apprenticeships from the lower school, really, where lower school pupils are invited to talks throughout the year to hear about apprenticeships, to hear more information from the experts. So back in February, as part of National Apprenticeship Week, we did invite in those from industry who are experts within that particular industry. We had invited in colleagues from one of the big four in London, the financial institutions. We'd invited in colleagues from a university that partners up with one of the big four to talk about a different pathway to finance, to talk about their offer for degree apprenticeships. In the middle school, we build on those talks and we invite our students to attend the HE and Careers Fair, which is on the 6th of February 2025. Last year, we invited Year 9, 10 and 11 pupils to that fair to begin to find out more about next steps and the pathways that lie ahead. We do have employers at our HE and Careers Fair who do offer apprenticeships. So last year we had a range of employers present who were talking to our students across the school about their apprenticeship offer. In year 12, we invite our sixth form students to talks, again, from those from industry. We invite our year 12 students to attend the HE and Careers Fair, the Higher Education and Careers Fair. We have a lookout lecture, which is dedicated to apprenticeships, where our year 12 students hear from a panel of experts. Last year, we were fortunate to be joined by an old Forester who is now the lead for apprenticeship programs at Google, the UK lead. And we were also joined by a young old Forester who has pursued an apprenticeship pathway in law. In year 13, that support and guidance is more bespoke for individual students who are now at a different point in their journey and they begin to make applications. The class of 2024, in the summer of 2024, 4 Forest students were offered apprenticeships in a range of areas, 3 in finance and 1 in cybersecurity, which I think was excellent. The students worked very, very, very hard for those apprenticeships. I'm happy to say that 2 accepted those offers and 2 of those students decided to go on to university. So it's very important, going back to an earlier point I made, that our students really do keep their options open. The UCAS definition of an apprenticeship, very similar to the one I read earlier, is it's an opportunity to work and study at the same time. Most time will be spent doing on-the-job training and the rest is spent working on a qualification. From students I've spoken to who have gone off and pursued the apprenticeship pathway, they spend 4 days out of 5 on the job, in work, and then 1 day they have off to study. The young person, as we've said, will be paid a salary and will be part of a team, just like a standard employee, but they will get dedicated study time throughout the week. Why would a young person choose an apprenticeship? Because they are ready to enter the world of work. They are ready to get hands-on and develop their skills in the workplace. They know they'll be paid a salary. They know they'll be studying alongside that and they're hoping to get that qualification. The difference is it will be the employer who will be paying for that qualification while also paying them a salary. Thank you very much. Should you have any questions about any aspect of the application process for apprenticeships, about the different levels, the offer, anything at all, please do contact me. My email address is there. Please do contact me. I'm the Director of Futures at Forest. Thank you very much.